it doesn't have like a safety belt, so it just goes, whoosh, and that creates stress and trauma, which creates eventually over a period of time. You got to see that movie Concussion.
I haven't seen it yet.
You got to see that. That kind of lays it out on the line. The book is probably better, but the movies. Will Smith is terrific.
Yeah, I heard he does. He does a really good job.
Yeah, he is amazing. Such a good actor.
Yeah, I really like him. Should we get him on the phone?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. I like the fact that it's got a 510 area code.
Yeah. Well, he's in Savannah, Georgia right now. That's his home area, but he has lived also. He's got two homes, one in the East Bay. I'm not sure exactly where. George, an interesting guy. I never really knew him when I covered the team because he was always kind of intimidating.
See, that's I know.
Yeah,
in fact, I
well, that's part of his personality. He and Jack Tatum were that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Jack looked weird. I mean, he had a weird looking face.
It's just a strange dude.
Hey, George. Hey, it's Edward Brown again, and we have Bruce here today.
Hey, George, what's happening, man? How you doing?
What's up, man?
You having a good one down there in Georgia?
Shit, it's hot as
It
shit.
is hot up here, too. We're having a spare the air day in the Bay Area. Too many people driving cars, man. I'm telling you, 7 million people. It's right outside. It's about 1:45, 1:50 right now, so almost 2 o'clock our time.
Yeah.
So you got plenty of time. The game doesn't start till 5 our time, which means 8 o'clock your time. Yeah. So you got plenty of time.
Yeah. I think George.
What network came on?
Okay, so it's Sports Byline. We're actually a national show, and so we're on a couple of hundred stations.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's also on the Armed Forces Radio Network and iHeartRadio.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you got a lot of different.
What station is the game on back there?
The game today is on the. It's on the game. It's on the FM station, the FM sports station, which is.
I'm talking about
TV.
Oh, TV. Oh, right. The game is on. Looks like it's on channel 2, which would be KTVU. KTVU. There you go. Yeah.
Right.
You know what station it's on. You're working on that station, Jesus. Sorry about that, George. I'm just, I'm a little out of it. I didn't sleep well last night, so having a rough time.
So, George, the way we do this, we have to do just a quick 2-minute intro, and so stay with us. You can kind of hear, Bruce and I do the intro. I'll save the file, and then we'll introduce you again. All right, here we go. Welcome, you're listening to Sports Econ 101. You know our show. It's where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Bruce McGowan, longtime sports radio personality. Today's show is going to be really fun. Actually, to me, it's going to be scary, because I used to get scared watching this guy on TV.
Yes.
Which is not a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, he may have been one of the smaller guys, but pound for pound, George Atkinson of the Raiders of the 1970s was one of the most intimidating people on the field, and he's a longtime football guy. He's still in the Bay Area, works with the Raiders on their broadcasts, and we're going to talk a little Raider football. And George is really into track and field, too, so we're going to talk a little Olympics and what's been going on down in Rio de Janeiro.
Okay, so, very cool.
Yeah.
Each commercial break, we're going to ask a sports trivia question. We're going to be giving away vacations to the first email with the correct answer, and those vacations are not sponsored by the radio station, but by Lighthouse Resort and Marina, located about 1 hour northeast of San Francisco. And those vacations are free. Their only request is a $100 cleaning fee to cover the housekeeping expenses. Check them out at lighthouseresortandmarina.com. And today's trivia theme, again, we're going to keep you in suspenders again with doing miscellaneous sports trivia.
Sounds like a plan. Maybe George has some answers to some of the questions.
Let's see.
We'll see.
We have an Olympic question.
Okay.
We have a baseball question. Actually, we got a second baseball question.
I like it. Okay.
All right. Let's see. This segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, providing mortgage investments that are currently yielding over 8% secured by real estate. It doesn't get any more conservative than that. You got to check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. And again, when we come back, we're going to have George Atkinson and I'm glad we're doing this on the phone, even though we're always very nice to our guests. We're not Jerry Springer. But
George is the gentleman assassin. Let's put him that way. Let's call it that way. You know,
Okay.
he played with Jack Tatum, who was known as the assassin, but George was the gentleman assassin.
There you go. But can you imagine watching TV and getting scared watching TV?
Oh yeah.
That's
Football is a frightening game to watch sometimes. It is.
But we talked to him a couple of minutes ahead of
Yeah.
time, and he sounds like a very nice guy.
He is a very nice man.
I'm sure he's still in shape. He can still play. All right. In fact,
we all can play.
That's
Come
right.
on.
Well, the Raiders may need him. So,
Yeah.
okay, stay with us. You're listening to Sports
Yeah.
Econ 101. We'll be right back.
Okay. All right.
All right. Thanks, George. That's just our little 2-minute
And we'll get
intro.
you right
We'll
in
save
here.
the file.
Yeah. What you doing down there, George, with the family? Just hanging out and lots of visiting?
Hanging out, making sure my house is in good shape here. I'm getting this golf. The house I have is on the golf course.
Yeah. Oh, nice. You're getting a little golf in then, huh?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I'll be back, though.
There you go. Now, where do you live in the East Bay? Whereabouts?
Livermore.
Livermore. Okay. You know, I took my wife over there because
Oh, yeah.
Edward here has a connection with a spa over there, and it was way out in the country. And we had 2 nights. I took my wife and my little girl out there, and I didn't realize Livermore's a really nice little
Yeah,
town.
it's the Purple Orchid.
Yeah, really nice.
Yeah.
It's been the downtown has been really revamped, and
It's like Healdsburg's like that.
yeah,
too.
it's kind of like Healdsburg. Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
here we go.
All right.
Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Bruce, who do we have on the phone?
Good friend of mine, George Atkinson, longtime Oakland Raider. Those that are too young to remember, but might have heard of the great Raider teams of the 1970s. George was an integral part of that fearsome defense. Of course, on offense, they had Hall of Famers like Kenny Stabler and Fred Biletnikoff and Gene Upshaw and Art Shell. But George was a part of an intimidating group of players on defense, and he teamed up with guys like Jack Tatum and the great Willie Brown, who is also in the Hall of Fame. And George, we want to talk to you about the Raiders of today because it really is a great story. But you know, we would be remiss if we didn't go back a few years to when you played because the game was different. Players didn't move around so much, and you guys really had a special bond with the community of Oakland. Talk a little bit about that bond and what it meant. You know, that the Raiders and Oakland were very, kind of hand in hand.
Yeah, well, without a doubt, we had a bond because of all this, and we were active during that time. You weren't making the kind of money that these guys were making, so we stayed around. And, some guys got jobs during the off season, and some guys prepared their future during the off season. So yeah, we had to work, which kept us in the community, which kept us active. Yes, we did build a strong bond with the Oakland community.
And of course, some of those games, man, I think the Raiders won like 90% of the home games. You guys had so many close, hard-fought wins. How did John Madden keep that team in an even keel? Because I remember watching him, and I was covering these games as a young reporter. He was a madman on the sidelines. You know, he was running around. His hair was flying. His arms were, going this way and that way. And I heard that the TV guys had to turn off their sound because he was, yelling obscenities all the time, but that's part of football. Well, how did he keep you guys under control?
Well, the way he kept us under control was a magic wand. We had a bunch of guys from all countries, and they were conscientious about it. They did what needed to be done as far as in order to win, and in order to keep the organization going.
Do you stay in contact with John at all?
Again?
Did you stay in contact with him?
With Coach Madden?
And there's some guys. You talking about Madden?
Yeah.
Yeah. From time to time, I try to stay in contact with him. I've seen him maybe a couple, 3 times a year. I've seen him at games when he's at the game. Where I sit is right across from where his box is. Yeah, I see him during the season mostly.
That's it.
The man always have been and always focused and knew exactly what the game of football was about. He was open for player suggestions, and I think that's what made a great team is that John listened to what our input was. If it made sense, he would use it. If it didn't, he would discard it.
It's interesting when you talk about John Madden too, because most people around the country think of him as a pitchman on TV, as a broadcaster, but they forget that this guy had a great 10-year career, and the Raiders were in, 7 AFC championships and won a Super Bowl. I mean, he retired at the age of 43 because he had an ulcer, and it sounds like it was a good move because he got not only the glory of being a part of the Raiders, but then he got to be in television, national television, for something like 25, 30 years.
And which, by the way, George, we don't think that you had anything to do with that ulcer.
There were about 53 guys had a lot.
Yeah. 53 guys had a lot to do with that. Yeah, that's true.
And I do have to ask you about the whole Lynn Swann thing, and Chuck Noll, the whole Steelers thing. What kind of bring us back, because we're talking 40-something years ago.
40 years ago, yeah. Well, the Raiders had a great rivalry with the Steelers. What was it about this, George? What was it about the Steelers that made you guys such a fierce rival?
Wait a minute. He's asking me to remember 40 years. I can't remember yet.
Yeah, but if I mention the name Lynn Swann, you'll remember that name.
That definitely does. I mean, we played them in the Coliseum, and as I remember, Mel Blount picked the franchise number 1 head, and that started the whole 1-for-1. Basically, you'll come in our house and beat our guys like that. That's not the way it's done. That's basically what that was for. So we answered, and I answered.
Yeah, and of course, I remember watching the replay of Cliff getting drilled. I mean, literally getting thrown headfirst into the ground. It's amazing he didn't suffer any kind of an injury.
Very amazing. That could have been, he could have broken his neck.
Yeah.
So, and that's how that started. That's what it started about.
Yeah.
Anything else? I got that CRS.
Yeah. I want to talk to you about that because.
I said CRS.
Yeah, no. What's that? No, okay. We're getting. You're making a joke, and I'm getting serious here. So we're really. Okay.
I can't, man. My memory is something go.
Yeah, that's a result. And we talked about this, Edward and I, off the air about this. We all know what's been going CTE, the brain trauma, which has been going on for years. But finally there's been research that has shown that unfortunately a lot of guys are having a rough time, and you're not immune to that. You're 70 years old, and you're actually in better shape than a lot of guys. Tell us a little bit about the hits.
I'm not such good. Some days I don't come out the house.
Is that right?
Yeah. Some days are better than others. My long-term memory is much better than, like I said, yesterday. There's things I can't remember.
Well, but that's almost typical of people, like all of us who are over 40.
Yeah, well. When you get up in the morning, sometimes try to remember, write down where you are, ask somebody.
That's different.
Not a good thing. Well, I talked.
You look at your grandson and you know his name, and it won't come out.
Yeah, no, I hear you, George. George and I talked about this on the phone, and I urged him to see that movie, which is based on a very powerful book called Concussion, which is starring Will Smith. It's a tough thing for football fans to accept, but we know, they've always said, George, that football is the closest thing to organized mayhem. I guess that's what you call it. It's like a war. It really is. I mean, they're casualties.
Well, before each game, we used to say we're going to war.
Mm.
Then, when you look at two bodies running into each other, I think at some point there was experiment, and I'm not certain, don't quote me on this, but it was an experiment done at some time that they equate two football players running into each other full speed, equate that to a car hitting a garage door 40 miles an hour.
Wow.
A lot of impact.
Wow.
Yeah.
And George, one of the things that interesting, because Bruce was telling me that you're really into track and field, and there was an article that I just saw recently about comparing pro football players to Usain Bolt, and how fast he is, but not for the first 20 yards. We're going to cut to it too. We're going to cut to a quick commercial break. When we come back, I do want to ask you about speed and track and field and the Olympics and all that. Okay. All right, so stay with us. So here's our first trivia question, and it does have to do with the Olympics. All right. What were the first? And then George, by the way, if you know the answer, don't answer yet because we want to give the audience a chance to answer. When we come back from break, we'll let you answer. Okay, so what were the first countries to win the gold medal for soccer in the Olympics? All right.
Good question.
The first email with the correct answer was a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Email Edward at sportsecon101.com the answer to this question. What were the first two countries? Excuse me. What were the first countries to win the gold medal for soccer in the Olympics?
So the first two Olympics. So that'd be the first two.
Basically for men.
Okay.
And then for women.
Oh, I
that's
see.
How,
okay.
That's how.
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
I'm trying to understand my own question
Yeah.
here. Gee, I tell you, I think that CTE hit me, and I wasn't a football player. I was into bowling. That's how dangerous that sport is. All right. Email Edward at sportsecon101.com the answer to that question. When we come back, we've got George Atkinson from the Raiders, and in fact, his son's there, right?
That's right. We'll talk about that too. George's son is playing for the Raiders during the preseason, and he may make the team.
In fact, the numbers are switched, aren't they? 43 to 34.
All
right, stay with us. Sports Econ 101 will be right back.
You're very observant.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, he had a great game the other night against Arizona, huh? Was it 2 touchdowns, George, or one and one long run? I think it was 2 touchdowns.
One was 50-some yards, the other
Yeah.
35, 36. I don't.
Kind of like your first game back in '68 at Buffalo. I remember that one. Yeah. You had I think you had was it a punt return and an interception return? There were two long returns.
No, you'll return.
Mm-hmm.
You'll remember that day. I still can remember.
Yeah. I remember watching that. I was just a 16-year-old kid. I was just becoming a big Raider fan. Listening to Bill King and watching the game on TV. We turned the sound down and listened to Bill.
That's how we used to do. Yeah. There was a delay too.
No, there was no delay in
back
those
then.
days. No.
Oh,
no
I
delay.
came out like
Not like today because of all the sophistication. Yeah. I mean, it
all
sounds.
swearing is what it is.
Yeah. Well, you know. Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Once again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Here was our first trivia question. What were the first countries, and we're talking the first men's, countries for men and then women, to win a gold medal for soccer in the Olympics?
I'm going to guess George Atkinson is our guest. George, you have any idea? You want to venture a guess on that one? Because I'm going to do a guess myself.
Okay. Let's do the men first.
Okay, I'm going to say for the men, I'm going to say, I'm going to go with Brazil or Argentina, and for the women, it's got to be the U.S.
Okay, so the women, yes, the U.S.
Right.
That was in 1996 in Atlanta. But you have to go back to 1896, literally 100 years, in Athens, Great Britain.
Great Britain, should have known. That's right, I forgot the first Olympics was back in the 19th century.
That's
over 120 years ago. Actually, 120 years ago.
Back then, they ran the 100-yard dash in about 30 seconds.
Well, you want to talk about it?
So I just literally today I happened to read this article where it's talking about how fast Usain Bolt is and how the NFL players are watching and just are in awe of how fast he is because they compared someone who's, I think his last name is Best, who's extremely fast.
You're talking about Jabez Best of that's University of California, former Golden Bear, and also played with the Detroit Lions until he suffered from some brain trauma and got out of football because he didn't want to get.
Right. Exactly.
Exactly.
And then so the idea was for the first 20 yards, a football player was probably a little faster, but because of Usain's, his stride, talk a little bit of length and all that, because football players don't usually run, 100 meters, usually.
Right? Well, I mean, George, you were a track and field athlete, weren't you, at small college at Morris Brown? Yeah.
I sure was. I ran against Bob Hayes.
You ran against Bob Hayes, who later became,
He was the fastest man in the world back then.
3 years.
What was that like?
We were in the same he was kind of like Bolt. He was slow getting out the block. Here he was coming.
Turned out to be a pretty good football player, too, huh?
Yeah, Bob was pretty good. I knew Bob college days. And we played against each other. He was a Florida and I was
Morris Brown is a small school in is it in Georgia? In Atlanta, right? Gotcha.
You didn't get to play against him in pro football though, right? Because he played. Well, I was gonna say he played for Dallas.
Well, they did have a couple of games in preseason.
Oh, gotcha.
We played in the college.
Yeah, that's right. You played on I think it was a Monday night game where George Blanda came in and threw a touchdown. I remember that in '74.
I remember the details.
Yeah. Hey, George,
I
remember all this stuff because I was just a geeky kid who loved all that stuff.
You know how it is. Right? There's certain things. I still remember the Super Bowl kick for the Colts over Dallas.
Oh, in 1970, Jimmy O'Brien. That was his great moment.
Yeah,
that's the only thing he did in the pros.
It was my birthday. So
yeah. Well, we're on the top of the Olympics. How about the U.S. women's track and field team? That was quite a story, and this has been a great Olympics once again for the United States teams in all phases.
Wait, what's the young girl?
Oh, Simone Biles. That you're talking about the gymnast? Oh, okay. Now I'm not. I saw that last night, and I can't remember the gal's name. I'm gonna feign. I'm gonna be ignorant. I'm not gonna try to guess.
I know. It's amazing how many young people qualify for these Olympics.
Yeah.
Teenagers. You didn't see that back in the day, baby.
No, you didn't. You didn't.
You saw 24, 25, and up.
Yeah.
These 17-year-olds, being in the Olympics actually.
Well, I mentioned this little gymnast, Simone Biles, and I think she's no older than like 19 or 20. She's only about 4'8". Have you had a chance? Did you watch any of that, George? Because I didn't see much of it, but yeah, pretty amazing.
Well, you got to be that young to have that kind of flexibility.
That's for sure. Every morning I get up, I don't know about you, George, or you, Edward, but every morning I get up, I hear a creak and a crack here and there.
Yeah. The only way I touch my toes is I take my shoes off and bring them up to my hands.
I have to get my oil can together.
Hey, while we're on the top... There you go. While we're on the topic, we're always talking sports here with George Atkinson, a former Oakland Raider. Your son, George Jr., or George the Third, I guess, because you're actually George Jr., and you have two sons. Now, both of them were pretty good football players, but George the Third is vying for a spot with the Raiders. He had 2 touchdown returns against Arizona in the preseason opener. What are his chances, George? Has he got a good opportunity?
Well, he's got to continue. If he continues doing what he did last week, it shouldn't be a chance. It shouldn't be a problem. But now, if he happens to get let go, I think from his performance last week, somebody pick him up. He showed what he can do with the given the right opportunity. So he made a case for himself. A strong case for himself.
And of course, the Raiders this year, it's kind of a weird year because they may move to Las Vegas after this year, or perhaps in 2018. But for now, it looks like Coach Jack Del Rio has put together a team, if they can stay healthy, that should be a playoff contender, if not in the playoffs. Derek Carr, quarterback, Khalil Mack, your outstanding linebacker, Amari Cooper, the terrific young wide receiver. You had a core of some great young players in this team for a change.
Well, without a doubt, you can start exactly what Reggie McKenzie is trying to do as far as putting the team together. First, you put the defense together, which you got to have good defense if you can't score, can't win. And then you start putting pieces together for the offense. I can see this team actually show a nice group of young players, which they have for a while. And that will determine their success. I think the nucleus of kids that they put together right now. So you mentioned Derek Carr, you got a veteran receiver, Crabtree, got a young receiver, Cooper, got a young running back, Murray, and the offensive line is pretty young and big. So this team is coming together, and when you look at the AFC West division, they have a real good chance of winning that division. Denver, you'll know who their quarterback is. Kansas City and San Diego has had problems the last few years. So the Raiders are in a pretty good position, I think, this year with the players that they have returning and the new players that they have.
And your son took the number 34. You were number 43. And I'm just wondering, did he take 34 because of Bo Jackson, or did he just want to distinguish himself from you? Yeah.
He just reversed my old
number. Okay.
wasn't about Bojack.
He wanted to distinguish himself from you, so he could be his own man. Yeah.
Right, but he wanted to keep the same numbers in his family.
You know, it's funny when we think about the Raiders and the silver and black and Al Davis, who no longer is around, who died just only 5 years ago. We think of a team that is so much a part of that community. We talked about it earlier, George, your relationship as players to the community. But the Raiders are not the same Raiders in terms of the, and I'm not knocking them because you mentioned Reggie McKenzie, great general manager, Jack Del Rio, terrific coach. But it's a different era, and they were in Los Angeles for 13 years. Now they're back in Oakland. This is their 20th year now back in Oakland. They may move again to Las Vegas. So they've developed kind of a cult following. I guess that's always been true with the Raiders, though, hasn't it, George? You have fans everywhere.
We have fans everywhere.
Yeah.
And evidently always will, because it looks like it's passed down from generation to generation. And, we have fans all over. I don't know exactly where the Raiders are going to play, but wherever they play, guarantee you they have sellouts. Hopefully they can stay in Oakland, but it's not, it's a business decision that has to be made. You just can't sit around and wait.
Well, is it because of the bad boy image, you think?
The fact that they're getting a lot of fans, is that part of it, George?
I think because it was the history of it coming back for good football. Had a storied history. Look at the Raiders history. We attract people because we won football.
Yeah.
And we were in Super Bowls. We had characters on us. We played hard. People identified with that. We were a fourth quarter team when other teams were quitting. We were just getting started. We won the majority of our games the years that I played in the fourth quarter.
Well, we were in our home. We were huge Raider fans, but I tell you, when they went to LA, it just sunk us. I mean, it was amazing. We just kind of stopped rooting. It was hard to root for them.
It was it was hard. I remember.
Especially during that time, because LA is a Bay Area.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
Identified.
I'm still upset with Roman Gabriel.
Well, now it's kind of neat because LA's got the Rams back,
yeah.
and we got a Marin County boy, Jared Goff, who may take over a quarterback in a couple of years. So it's kind of come full circle. But boy, George, it's been a lot of fun having you on here today, and I know you got to get ready.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, listen, we got to have you on again. We really appreciate you coming on.
A day when I can remember.
Yeah.
Well, you take care of yourself, George. I know that we should mention this before we go. There are a lot of NFL players, former players, who are going through what you're going through after all the hits, and I think the fans should know that. And the league is hopefully taking care of some of these guys. I know you're doing okay financially, but some of these guys are not doing well, and I hope the league.
I'm not doing that okay.
Oh, you're not?
Like I said.
Oh man.
You caught me on a good day.
I caught you on a good. Well, that's good.
Yeah, I've had a neurologist for about 7 8.
Wow.
No,
wow.
you sound great. I mean, you do.
I gotta say, my long-term memory is okay.
But it's the short term. Yeah. I hear you, George.
All right, George. Well, we'll have you on again. Thanks again for joining us on Sports Econ 1.
We'll see you when you'll see you at the ballpark.
Okay.
All right. That is George Atkinson, former.
Great.
Yeah, it's kind of depressing in a way to talk to George, only because you hear his slurred speech, and it's part of the CTE thing that football players
He's still
his age.
70 years old. So
He's 70. Yeah.
Okay, David, let's go to our quick
Definitely.
question here. All right, who was the youngest major league pitcher to throw a no-hitter? All right.
Good one.
That's our question.
Okay.
All right. Stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back.
That is a good question. I can't get that. Yeah, it's funny. When George used to slur his words the last few years, I thought, God, I wonder what's going on with him. And I didn't realize it was CTE.
And that's because you don't think as much a defensive guy, but
well, look at when they hit people.
Yeah. And Jack Tatum did go through.
He's dead.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he's gone. He had all their other problems too. Clarence Davis.
Oh yeah.
God, what a mess.
What position did he play?
He was a running back, and a great one from USC. Yeah, he wasn't an all-pro, but he was close to it. He was like one tier below.
Yeah.
But he had some terrible problems, and our producer went out to do an interview with him to get some Raider memories, and he said, I found one cut I could use where he sounded intelligible.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it was horrible. And this guy was not even. He was in his late 50s, early 60s. Yeah. Well, Jack, what's his name? Webster. Mike Webster.
Yeah.
And he was only 52.
Yeah.
But the center takes all the hits, because they're right in the middle already.
But they're doing it like this.
Well,
it's not like this. But still,
you're doing it 50, 60 times, 80, 70 times a game. Then you do it in practice. And as I said, it doesn't matter if you got a helmet to protect your scalp or from a fracture. The concussion is the stop and start. I don't know if you've ever had one. I've had two.
Once I had one.
Well, I've had two. I had one when I hit a reef when I was boogie boarding. I didn't realize
That's
I had.
scary, especially
It was.
with
I had
water.
14 stitches like that. I looked like Frankenstein. And I went back in the next day. I wasn't that nice.
You ain't gonna let that stop
No.
you.
And the other time was when I was in a head-on auto wreck, which wasn't even that fast. I got sunlights here, and I'm making a turn, and a truck hit my Volkswagen, and it just crumpled the whole front end. I was only just barely moving. He was going only about 20 miles an hour, and cuts, and a concussion. And that was my first day on the job in TV in Eureka. I called my boss up. She answers the phone. And I said, Carol, I can't come in today. I'm a little woozy. I got in a car wreck last night, and I got a slight concussion. Oh, shit. That was her reaction. She got fired a couple of years later, which made me feel better. Although we got along fine, but she was incompetent. God. Didn't they say something like that? Said something, are you okay? No. Oh, shit.
It's like when Sarah told me she was in an accident, I go, first thing I said is, how's the car?
Well, it's like Donald Trump, think about it before you say it. Come on, Mr. Trump. God
I think a lot of us have that problem sometimes.
Yeah, no, I'm beginning to get that way more and more. As I get older, because of what's going on with my wife, I'm thinking life is too short to bullshit. And I'm not going to try to hurt anybody's feelings.
No.
But you have to be honest with people, And I've been a wimp all my life. I've been too nice a guy. I will continue to be a nice guy.
The same way. I'm a nice guy.
Well, you got to be nice, but
okay. So get this real quick. That's on TV.
Yeah.
So yesterday I'm having this. We bought a hot tub.
Right. Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I'm having the electrician, or actually he's from El Salvador. He speaks English pretty well.
Right. Enough of the basics. Yeah.
And then I had the hot tub guy come and show us about, and he was kind of looking. He's all, well, he shouldn't have done the electrician under here. He should have done this. And you could tell he had a little bit of a snooty attitude, right?
Yeah.
And this El Salvador guy, who we've had to do a lot of great work, is the nicest guy. I mean, he just doesn't get upset. And even he was kind of just like this, right? I could tell. And then finally, that's when I stepped in and I just said, hey, listen. I go, you know what? This guy does really good work.
Good.
I said, let's all work together. And he changed his tune.
Yeah.
And eventually, at the very, very end, he apologized to him.
You know what you have to do? It's not you have to get back in people's faces, but you have to just be strong and assertive and use the language rather than screaming at people.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's the problem with politics. Everybody's angry with each other. The Democrats, Republicans are beating each other up. The conservatives and liberals are beating each other up. We got to work together. We're all Americans.
Right? Nobody's listening.
Yeah, nobody's listening. We're all yelling. We're like a bunch of yelling kids. I know.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Here was our second trivia question. Who was the youngest major league pitcher to throw a no-hitter?
I remember Bob Feller broke in at the age of, I think, 20 or 19, but I don't think he pitched a no-hitter at that young an age. It was somebody a little bit later, wasn't it? 1960s maybe or 70s?
Well, no. Okay, so for the American League, it was later on.
Later on, so maybe like in the 70s or 80s?
Or early in the 70s.
Early
1970. Come on, who's one of our favorite players? Who's been on the show? Come on!
Oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. I'm having a memory
You're on
problem.
a CTE thing.
Yeah.
Vita Blue. Okay, so Vita Blue,
of course,
was he was at the age of 21 years and 1 month. Okay.
Well, he was amazing. In 1971, the A's won their first West Coast division that year, and then went on to win 3 World Series in the subsequent years. But Vita was amazing. When he used to pitch, Edward, they would get probably a sellout crowd every time he pitched at home. For the other games, the A's would draw maybe 15,000, 10,000. So he wanted more money next year from Charlie Finley, the owner, naturally. Yeah. He was getting the major league minimum of at that time $14,000, $14,500. He asked for, I think it was 90, and Charlie said 45. I'll give you 45. And so he held out. He had a lousy season, relatively speaking, for Vita. and he was not a big factor in the A's winning the World Series that year, but he did pitch. But then his career, he had a pretty darn good career.
Yeah.
But I think one thing with Vida, and I never talked to him about this, I think in some respects, Edward, Vida probably had too much success too soon.
Yeah.
Not that it went to his head, but he just came out of the gate like a blast, and then everybody expected the world from him, and not everybody is going to be Christy Mathewson or Bob Feller or Gentleman Jim Palmer or Bob Gibson.
That's a good point. It would have been kind of better just to get better each year.
Exactly, or just be consistent. Juan Marichal, for instance, was 6-2 his rookie year in 1960. 1961 his rookie year, 6-2. 1962 the Giants win the pennant. He's I think 13 or 16-10, and then in 1963 through 1968 he had 4 or 5 20-win seasons.
Yeah.
So he kind of gradually built up. Yeah.
Okay, but now going back to our question.
Yeah.
You got to go back a long ways to go for the quote National
League. Okay, go back to the 18th. Back to the turn of the century.
Yeah, just before.
Just before.
Age 20 years and 2 months.
Oh man, that's.
And this and the
Mickey Welch and the New York Giants.
No, well, it was New York Giants against the Brooklyn Grooms.
Not Christy Matthews.
No.
Before him.
That was
Iron Man McGinty. No.
The McGinty, John McGinty.
Yeah.
No. In fact, this is the guy who threw so fast that they reduced or they increased the length of the pitcher's mound from like 54 feet to 60 feet.
Is that right?
Amos Russi.
Amos Russi. There's a name. Now, if you're a baseball historian, and I'm kind of that way, I'm not a huge baseball historian, he pitched, I believe, until he was in his early 40s.
Yeah, the Indiana Hoosier, they call him.
Yeah, he was amazing. I think he stopped his career about 1915, 1910, something like that, when baseball was just getting to become a big deal in this country. Speaking of baseball, has baseball ever been any better than it is right now? In terms of fan interest, I can't think of a time where I was looking at the attendance figures the other day in the box scores. Every single crowd, 45,000, 35,000, 27,000. I mean, it's incredible.
And it's expensive in a lot of parks. I mean, I couldn't believe going to spring training. They wanted like $75 a ticket.
Well, if you get the best ticket, that's what you pay for. I agree. But I agree. I mean, everything is costing more. But you look at the salaries, the money that's coming in from television, the sponsorship. It's kind of out of hand. I think it has sort of plateaued though in pro sports. I'm really hoping it has, because not that these guys don't deserve to make the money because they're the cream of the cream, but when you think about a guy getting for instance, Alex Rodriguez, got I think his contract originally with the Texas Rangers. This is a few years ago.
Million, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was $250 for 10 years and $25 million a year. But now we are hearing in basketball that Steph Curry of the Warriors is going to probably get a salary of well over $30 million a year in a couple of years.
Well, didn't Steve Young get like $1 billion? He was supposed to get $1 billion when he signed.
No, it wasn't quite that much. It was something like $120 million when he signed with the USFL Los Angeles Express. A guy named William Oldenburg, who turned out to be a crook. Well, I don't know if he was a crook, but he didn't have the money. So Young got some of it. I don't think he got all of it, but he got most of it. Yeah, Young is set for life.
Yeah,
he was set for life. When he came to the 49ers, he didn't need to play a single down behind Joe Montana, And he sat there for, what was it, 3 years before he really got a chance to play every day.
But didn't he become an attorney just for fun then?
Probably. He's a bright guy. BYU, graduate and nice guy. And boy, we talked about the concussion thing though. Season opener, 1999. They're playing at Arizona. He gets a concussion. He'd had a few of them, and he retired after that. He was, by that time he was 38, 39, but he had not played that many games up until he was maybe 28 outside of college.
Yeah, because he went to Tampa Bay.
Went to Tampa. He played there for a while. He did play regularly, but he didn't have a regular job year in, year out until 1991 with the 49ers when Joe Montana was finally unable to come back.
Yeah.
Joe actually did come back, but then he was traded to Kansas City.
Going back to baseball for just a minute. You mentioned about the salaries being so high that's why the ticket prices are high.
Well, they justify it that way. Yeah.
They justify it, but the thing
they don't need to charge that much.
That's the interesting thing. Okay, and we talked about this I think on our very first show years ago.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's very odd because it's a supply and demand, right?
Exactly.
I mean, in theory, the owners or whoever makes the ticket prices. I mean, if they want to charge $1 million a ticket and sell none, they can do that.
Sure.
But in theory, they want to maximize the amount of money that comes in.
And you understand that it's a business.
Yeah,
I mean, I do.
So, if you price it at $1, that's too little. It's easily sold out.
Right.
If you price it at $10, same thing. But there comes a point where it's like you want there to be almost 100% capacity, not necessarily 100%.
Well, the Giants, San Francisco Giants, they've won 3 World Series in the last 6 years. They sell out every game. Now there are some seats that are sold, but the people don't show up, but not too many.
Yeah.
But they engineered something that you find this interesting, Edward. I mean, you probably know about it, called competitive pricing, where when they have a team like the Dodgers. Or say the St. Louis Cardinals in town, you might have to pay a little bit more for a ticket that day than you would say if the Milwaukee Brewers.
Well, basketball does the same thing.
Yeah. But the Giants were the ones to pioneer it. They were the first ones to do it. I give Larry Baer, the CEO and president of the Giants, credit for sort of being on the cutting edge of doing that. Now, a lot of fans go, "Geez, that's ripping people off." Well, it's a business. My wife always tells me, "Why do you root for these teams? Why do you follow sports? It's just business." I said, "Well, yeah, I guess it is. It has been for a long time."
I guess it's something to relate to. You gotta have something to root for.
Well, it's like you get to be kids for 3 or 4 hours a day. When you go to the ballpark. I'm still a big kid when I watch the Giants.
Well, interestingly enough, I went to the Giants Pittsburgh game on Tuesday night.
Oh, all 3 of those were brutal.
It was terrible.
They're in a as we speak, they're in a horrible slump. 21 losses in 30 games.
Yeah, and they were up 7 games, and now they're down 1 or 2.
They were up by 8, and they're now down. They were up by 8, and they're now down as we speak by a game and a half to the Dodgers. It'll happen. It happens sometimes.
But I thought that the interesting thing was I was looking at the clock. The game was supposed to start at 7:15.
Right.
By 7:10, I'd say the stadium was still half.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then it didn't take until probably the second, third inning.
Yeah. Well,
and then it seemed like it was about 80% full.
2 reasons for that. Reason number 1, traffic. And it's not as bad here as it is in LA. That's the thing that they always used to talk about with the Dodgers. The fans show up in the 3rd and leave in the 7th because they're not real fans. But there are a lot to get 40,000 a night. You have to get the casual fan. You have to get the fan that follows the team but doesn't read about it every day or talk about it every day.
Yeah.
Those people are going to show up regardless. But the people that are going to really sell your place out, the 20 or 30,000 a night that are going to add to that core of 15 to 20 hardcore 1,000 fans, are the casual fans who will go to 5, 6 games a year, and that's it. But you and I, if we had if it was, I can get a pass to go anytime I want because I've been covering the team forever. But you and I, if we wanted to, we can go, or we go to as many games as we want because we love the team, Not everybody wants to do that. There's so many other things to do, for entertainment. So.
Well, also we talked about this too. It's like, okay, so Warriors, right? Love to actually go to the game, but there's the traffic.
It's awful.
And then,
it's awful. It's getting worse. It's getting worse. You know why that is? And this is a good thing, actually. The economy is better. People are working, and people, when they're working, are driving. They're going places because they're spending money, or they're going to work. Or they're coming home from work, unfortunately, and you're right in the middle of it.
Well, that's true.
You're right in the middle of it when you go to a game. Boy, I'll tell you, I know, because I've been in this commutes many a time.
You gotta go 6 hours early. Come on.
Yeah. Well, I used to when I was working in full time. I'd live at the ballpark. For a Saturday afternoon game, I had to cover. I had to do a pregame show that started at 11. I get to the ballpark at 9:30. I go in the clubhouse, get my interviews, put them together, go on the air at 11, off the air at 12:30, watch the game in the press box, go down and get my interviews after the game, come back to the studio at the facility in the ballpark, and at about 5 o'clock I'd be on the air until about 6:30 for another hour and a half, taking calls and playing.
Wow, so about a 10-hour day.
It was. It was. I was in my 50s, early 50s when I was doing it. It was tiring. I didn't have the energy I used to have. I enjoyed it, but after 2005, I guess it was, I was 53 at the time, and I'm thinking I'm in good shape, but this is tiring. It was a 9-hour day, and the game itself. You're sitting there watching the game for 4 hours. That was okay, but it's real busy before and real busy after. A lot of interviews, a lot of grabbing guys for quick 2 minutes, putting the tape, making sure you got it ready, queued up. I had to be my own engineer in that little studio.
So you got to take a lot of notes during the game.
You know, I followed the game so closely. I just kept the box score, and that was good enough.
Yeah.
And I could work off that. That's good enough.
Yeah. So in the third inning, when you're down, you know.
But you don't ask those kind of questions because if you do, the casual fan who might be listening, now granted, a lot of hardcore fans are mostly the listeners, you want to get them to talk about the emotion of the game and something that happened that was really unusual. Describe that. That was the real challenge for me as an interviewer in doing broadcasting is to make these guys, you know, tell a story about the game. Don't just tell me about statistics or the fastball in the inside corner that you hit on 3 and 2 and what you were thinking. Tell me about what it was like being down to your last strike and you had to get that big hit. You know, that's what I want to hear.
Yeah, so, you're still thinking, okay, were you looking fastball in?
Well, you know, and here's the thing: players are so funny. They think, oh, you guys never played the game, you don't know anything about it. And then you ask them a specific question like that, and they kind of like it, but sometimes they think, what do you know? You never played the game. How do you know what I was thinking? So my feeling was, okay, I don't know as much as you. You tell me.
Yeah, exactly.
And you tell me the story.
Challenging.
Yeah, no. I never had any problem with guys. Kurt Gibson was one. Well, Kurt Gibson was one of the few jerks, and I'm trying to think of managers who were tough to deal with. I'd say Whitey Herzog was really tough to deal with.
Really? It's so funny because it seemed like a...
Oh, he just didn't like the media. He didn't like reporters. I remember one time he swatted a reporter's microphone away, literally knocked it out of his hand.
Was he getting too close to him? Or?
No, he just didn't like him. And in those days, there wasn't a lot of TV around, so he could do that without being, you know, caught on TV, on camera. Nowadays, everybody's got a camera on, so you have to be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That part of it's a good thing.
And yes and no. I miss the old days because these guys, you know, could show their emotions and we wouldn't cover up for them. Yeah. We wouldn't cover for them, but we wouldn't caricature them and sensationalize it either.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That was true reporting.
True reporting, yes.
Okay, we're going to go to our third.
Old school.
Old school. I like that. Okay, you'll probably get this one.
Okay.
Who was the first major league player to reach the 3,000 career hit milestone?
Ooh, good one.
I think you'll know this.
Okay.
The first email with the correct answer is going to win that 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Email Edward at sportsecon101.com. The answer to this question: who was the first major league player to reach the 3,000 career hit milestone? Don't touch that dial. Sports Econ 101 will come back with some closing comments.
I think I know that one.
Don't tell me.
Don't tell me. I don't want to know.
Yeah.
I got my wife does this to me all the time. She
calls you at the.
Well, she doesn't call, but she leaves text, and I tell her I'm you know, we're not. She knows we're not live, but at the same time, it's like, come on.
Yeah, I know.
Well, Vernon's wife used to do that all the time. He was texting constantly. I love his wife, but she is an intense woman. My wife is, you know, God, what she's going through right now, I can't imagine it. It's driving. She's in the second phase, unfortunately, now, the cancer. I think I told you about that. It's gotten worse. Yeah, she's had to take a drug now that basically puts her into, what's the word I'm looking for, menopause. Because
wait a minute, she hasn't had menopause?
No. She's only 46. She's only 46. Yeah. I married a youngster. She's 18 years younger than me. True story. It's true. No. Okay. What happens is the cancer, women's cancer, a lot of it thrives off the female hormone estrogen, just as men's cancer. When you have prostate, thrives off of testosterone. So what they have to do is they have to basically, to fight it, they have to neuter you.
Gotcha. Men
and women when you're in your middle age, and it's a pain. And now she's taken the shot. Now she's going to start taking the medication, and she had to go back to work today. You know, I wish I could be working full time, but you know, we'll get through it. I mean, luckily we're okay. You know, we're not going to fall through the cracks. We got a lot of support. We got money put away. We're not going. It's going to be tough. Yeah. It's not going to be tough as financially as it's going to be tough emotionally.
Well, then you push the financial part, emotion, fear aside.
I'm not worried about that. I know I can. If push comes to shove, I can always get extra work. I mean, and my wife knows that, but she also knows that if I did go to work, who's going to take care of our daughter?
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, she
can take care of the daughter.
You're not going to starve.
No.
Maybe you can't. Vacation in the Bahamas every week.
Well, you know, we've been actually since I got let go at KMBR 10 years ago. We've been very responsible. We don't take vacations anymore. I mean, we take vacations, but just little ones in the day in California.
Personally, I like those better. I mean, I do like going
Yeah.
to Hawaii, but I don't like them being away for like 10 days or 2 weeks.
If you're gonna be overseas or something, you gotta be there for at least 3 weeks to really enjoy it, to get used to the time and the food.
And I can't be away from that.
I
mean,
know,
it makes me like I need another vacation. I get stressed.
Well,
you
you because of all the responsibilities you have.
That's what.
Yeah, that's
but I
what it
kind
is.
of enjoy it.
Well, you like it. You're your own master of your own ship.
That's good for my wife. Okay, ready?
She's your co-pilot,
That's right.
driving you crazy but loving you for every minute.
Yes.
There you go.
Here we go.
All right.
Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Here was our last trivia question. Who was the first Major League Baseball player to reach the 3,000 career hit milestone?
It's got to be either Honus Wagner or Ty Cobb, and I'm going to say Ty Cobb.
No, before.
Before.
Yeah, come on. One of your quote, I say in quotes, favorite players.
Really? From before?
I mean, he wasn't. I'm being sarcastic.
Okay.
Who's one of the players you don't like?
One of the players I don't like. Oh.
Yep. Come on. You know it.
Yeah. I remember.
Come on.
Yeah. Hang on.
I'll give you 2 more seconds.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cap Anthony.
Camp Anthony, who was a vicious racist.
That's why I knew you didn't like him.
Yeah. He was one of the guys who was responsible for keeping African Americans out of baseball, and actually they were in professional baseball as early as the 1890s, but there was getting Fleetwood Walker, yeah, but he helped to keep him out. Get that N off the field is what he said. I won't use the word.
Yeah.
But that's what he said. He was a jerk. You know, anybody does that. You know, in this day and age, we are just astounded when we look back. You can't feel guilty because we're not involved, but it's our relatives, the people who preceded us, and it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Tell you what, I got some fun thoughts for the day here.
Yes.
Right, ready?
Yeah.
Blessed are the hearts that can bend; they shall never be broken. A guy named Albert Camus.
Albert Camus.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah.
There we go.
There you go.
I gotta tell you, 6 years of high school still didn't do me
Yeah,
good.
that's okay.
And Sir P. Sidney said, "I will either find a way or I will make one." All right, I like that.
That's what you've done.
Yes, that's true.
That you have.
And with that, next week we're going to have Paul Kingsman, my friend, who's a 1988 bronze medal winner in swimming.
That's great.
About distractions. So his story is very, very interesting.
I'd love to have some thoughts from him about this whole thing with the U.S. swimming team. And also Michael Phelps.
Yes.
28 medals now over 4 Olympics.
I know, that's pretty
unbelievable.
Amazing. All right, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and giving away more free vacations for answering sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown, your host. We'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
So long.
All right, good show, Edward.
Yeah, that was good.
That's good. You know, it's funny when I'm at my worst mentally. I think I do my best work.
Interesting, huh?
I think it's because I'm